12:35 according to that clock. So don't use that clock today as your gauge of what time you need to be somewhere. It is 12:35 on Tuesday, March 9th. A quorum is present, and the Minnesota Education Policy Committee will now come to order. Today, we will hear Senate Files 2831, 3548, 3339, and 3963. But we'll be starting our hearings in the next few weeks to hear student testifiers first about whatever they would like to share with us. And so are the two students from Lakeville High School here? Come on up to the podium. We're excited to see you and hear what you have to say about our school systems. For all the good and for all the bad, whatever you'd like to share. Welcome to the committee and identify yourselves.
Hello, members of the committee. My name is Mumbi Maina, and I attend Lakeville South High School. I'm a senior there.
Hi, I'm Ananya Rao. I'm also a senior, but I go to Lakeville North High School.
Okay, I'll start us off. Members of the committee, my name is Mumbi Maina, and I'm a Kenyan American student and a senior at Lakeville South. Some of my favorite things about school are the people I meet every day and the activities that bring students together. I've participated in leading clubs like Black Student Union and have participated in activities such as volleyball and lacrosse. One thing I believe that every Minnesota school district should implement is something that we call win time. This is a dedicated period of time provided on Tuesdays and Thursdays where students have the opportunity to access resources or get extra help if they find themselves in need of it. Having this time allows students to not only learn and understand the material being taught to them, but overall facilitates their overall success in the future. Lastly, if I could change one thing about education in Minnesota, it would be the removal of messages that promote inclusivity and acceptance in our schools. In January of 2025 last year, my district, 194, chose to remove a series of inclusive posters from our district buildings altogether. These included messages like Black Lives Matter, We Are Stronger Together, and Everyone is Welcome Here. For many students, those weren't just posters. They were reminders that our school was meant to be a place where everyone belongs and is welcome. Removing such things sets a precedent for a less inclusive environment and changes the way students experience their schools. It changed the way I viewed mine. If I could wave a magic wand, I would make it so that no student has to walk into school feeling as if they don't belong. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Ananya Rao, and I am a 12th grader at Lakeville North High School. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here today. Over the past 4 years, my favorite thing about school is the community I've built. I've made memories with friends that I will cherish forever through extracurriculars like speech and debate, but I've also made meaningful connections with my teachers as well, who have in part shaped me into the person I am today. Even on the busiest days, while I'm constantly worrying about one thing after the other, I'm glad to say I have a great support system around me that makes these stressful moments even a little more enjoyable. One thing that I think every school in Minnesota should adopt is also our WIN sessions. WIN stands for What I Need, and 2 days a week, students are able to sign up to go to a classroom for 30 minutes with one of their teachers to fulfill their academic needs. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at Lakeville, we get 30 minutes of homeroom or advisory time after second period to use as a study hall or a mini reset before the rest of the day. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays, with this allocated WIN time, we are able to go to WIN sessions that we signed up for to keep ourselves on track for the rest of the week. These small pockets of time make a huge difference. They support students academically, but they also help teachers by giving them structured time to work with us without already adding to their long days. However, if there was one thing I could change about education in Minnesota, it would be the involvement of students in decisions that actually affect the school. A few years ago, I was taking French classes as part of my language credits, but the district unfortunately had to cut the whole entire French program due to insufficient funding. Because of this, I had to start taking Spanish classes in 10th grade, putting me 2 years behind the expected path. I understand decisions like these are important to maintain the district, but they have real consequences for students. Giving us a seat at the table would allow us to be more involved in shaping the environment we spend our everyday lives in. In the status quo, we are given opportunities, such as this one, to speak up, but I think it would be more beneficial if these became more widespread. Now, I'll be honest, the most exciting part of my school day has always inevitably been lunch. It's the one time of day where things are finally allowed to slow down and I can rejuvenate and chit-chat with my friends. I love learning new things, but having the time where I am allowed to decompress with my buddies makes the day so much more manageable. It may seem like a generic answer, but moments like these are what makes my school feel like a community instead of just a place I go to learn new things. Thank you for listening, and thank you for valuing student voices.
Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And if you notice, we got a representative from both Lakeville North and Lakeville South. Very strategic to keep the peace down there. I think we could also use some wind sessions up here in the legislature. That being said, I just wanted to thank you both for taking the time to come up here today to share with us what's important to you, what your thoughts are, what your experiences have been here in Minnesota Public Schools, specifically in Lakeville. It shouldn't go without saying, but I'm going to say it just because it should be understood that we're very, very proud of you. We're glad to have you as students in our schools. We're super proud of all the work you've done and that you'll continue to do even after you graduate from Lakeville North or Lakeville South. So appreciate you being up here. I'll stop talking because you probably do have some classes you should get back to if we want to keep you out of trouble. But again, thank you again for coming up here. And the good news is the chair of this committee has made it a point to ensure that we continue to listen to student voices. So this likely won't be your only opportunity or the only opportunity for any students, whether they be Lakeville School students or any public school student from across the state. So thank you.
Thank you.
Members, anybody else? Whoa. Thanks for not letting school get in the way of your education and taking time out of your busy school day and you're missing lunch, which you did suggest is where you debrief or whatever word you used, and to be with friends, which is what lunch should be all about. So I appreciated hearing your testimony today. If you read the Constitution, the words in the Constitution, they never mention the word education. It's not found once in the Constitution. And the 10th Amendment says this: the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively. And your testimony today made me think of that passage because states are usually referred to as the laboratories of democracy, where these 50 little laboratories try to figure out what's best for their states, and all the great ideas in theory get adopted by all the other states because that laboratory was successful. Well, what you made me think about today is that school districts are the lab stations of democracy. And when Lakeville North and Lakeville South experiment with this 3 days a week, where you get to go meet with a teacher during your wind time, I couldn't hear if it was wings or wind, that's what this place is all about, is the laboratories, lab stations of democracy. And if this is a noble idea, and it's a great idea, maybe other school districts will adopt it, because two student testifiers came to bring that up and make that that wonderful system, brought it to our awareness, and now other districts will maybe adopt that idea too. So I appreciate that you brought that to our attention and the attention of the other 340 school districts in the state. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
All right, first today we will hear Senate File 2831. Senator Cwodzinski, as you are getting settled there, welcome to your committee. Today our intention is to send Senate File 2831 to the Committee on Taxes. So Senator Cwodzinski, would you like to make a motion for Senate File 2831 to be recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on Taxes?
So moved.
Thank you. I understand you have the A1 amendment, Senator Cwodzinski.
I do.
That being an author's amendment, we'll adopt that first and then you can describe the bill.
Great.
All right, so members, any comments or questions on the A1? All right.
I can briefly explain. It just changes the date from 2037 to 2035.
Thank you. All right, members, all those in favor of adopting the A1 amendment, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes. The amendment is adopted. Senator Cwodzinski, to your bill.
Yeah, this bill, in 2007, the legislature created a program allowing the Minnesota State High School League to fund a foundation supporting students in schools with sales tax revenue. So the Minnesota High School League is required to determine the sales tax savings certified by the transfer at the Department of Revenue and annually transfer that amount to a foundation sponsored by the Minnesota High School League. It sounds like a really, really great program. Half the grants go to reduce the student activities fees, and the other half just goes to coaches training and purchase of AEDs and everything else that the schools need to do that maybe they don't have the financial resources to do. And it comes out to be about $1 million, just over $1 million annually that the schools rely on. And now, with that said, I have 2 or 3 testifiers, but 2 of them are up here with me now. One's remote.
Very good. Thank you. So we will move to testifiers. All the testifiers, please, when it's your turn, state your name for the record, and then give us your testimony. We'll start with Will Cannon and then Madeline Harvey. Will Cannon, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Will Cannon. I'll be testifying in favor of Bill SF 2831 regarding the funding for the MSHSL Foundation and its continued support of students in Minnesota. So I'm a senior at Farmington High School. I've been involved with activities such as debate, choir, theater, even some other clubs, stuff like that, since I was a freshman in high school. It's been a great experience being able to engage with these activities, but me and a lot of other people like me may not be able to afford activities such as debate, where the activity fees can get as high as $200 just for participation in the regular season. So things like the MSHSL Foundation funding, activity fees, coaching training, as well as the hundreds of other things that the foundation funds have been detrimental to me being able to, participate in debate, be able to achieve the success that I've reached as the state champion, as well as being able to recruit other people that I think would be great for that as well. Also, I'm a member of the Minnesota State High School League Student Advisory and Leadership Team, which is only possible due to the funding from this bill. The money that is gained from this bill is able to help us fund meetings, conferences such as Together, where we're able to give back to the communities, back to the students. We're able to train them and give them leadership skills, allow them to bring a kinder atmosphere back to their schools and ensure that we don't have any bad behavior. The foundation was also able to fund our trip to the National Student Leadership Summit in Indianapolis last summer. I was able to meet a lot of great leaders, a lot of people from all around the country, and hear from great speakers as well. So I think that the bill is a great idea, and it's able to fund a lot of great things within our state and within the country, as well as helping students in all communities be able to afford the things that they want to engage in.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Madeline Harvey, please introduce yourself and begin.
Hello, Madam Chair and members. My name is Madeline Harvey, and I'm from Blooming Prairie High School. I'm here to testify in support of SF 2831 regarding the funding for the Minnesota State High School League Foundation and its continued support of students in Minnesota. I'm a senior, again, at Blooming Prairie High School, and I'm involved in various activities throughout the school. I'm involved in volleyball and softball, as well as being a captain in both of those. I'm our student council president. I'm involved in FCCLA and various leaderships teams, including our student advisory leadership team at school, throughout the Gopher Conference, and at the statewide level, along with Will. I am so grateful for all of these experiences, and this experience is really personal to me because I have 4 parents, and all of those parents are teachers, 3 of them in my school, and all 4 of them have been coaches, and I see just the direct impact of how this affects everyone, and how important these issues are. Again, I'm also part of the student advisory leadership team at the state high school league level, and I've been honored to experience many different things and have opportunities to do great things with them, and I'm just so grateful that we've had the funds to do those things, and I would really wish upon anyone that they would be able to experience those things as well. At the state high school league, for our SALT team, we focus on regional meetings. We do 4 a year, and we do them in various locations such as Rochester, Bemidji, the metro area, and Mankato. And across all of these committees, we probably have around over 1,000 students in attendance. So our direct impact of all the leadership speakers that we provide to them, hopefully they can take them back and implement them in their schools. And not only do we have leadership speakers for how to better change your school, but also how to just better change your life in general. We focus on issues like what life looks like after school, if you're an athlete, how to not directly compare yourself to your sport, and how to have an identity outside of that. I think those reach a lot of different audiences, and I think it's very valuable for them. I've met many great people. Along with Will, I was also in attendance to the National Leadership Summit in Indianapolis this summer, and that was one of the greatest opportunities I've ever experienced. It was just so unique, and the atmosphere was so welcoming, and I've truly never experienced anything like that. So that really made me feel at home, and I wish that for so many other people. I just think this issue is really important, and I would love to see it be applied for many other people. So thank you for continuing to support this program, and thank you for letting me talk up here.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Lastly, we will hear remotely from Bruce Remy. Please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and begin with your testimony.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay?
We can.
Thank you. Members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today in support of SF 2831. My name is Bruce Remy, and I'm currently the Assistant Principal and Activities Director at Southridge School up north here, and I appreciate the opportunity to be remote today so that I could also do lunch duty. I appreciate getting a few minutes out of my lunch duty today. In addition to that role, I am currently the president of the Minnesota State High School League Foundation Board. I've been a member of the board now for 5 years, and I'm currently serving as the president. And I would say I've been an activities director since the foundation was established in 2007 in a couple of different school districts. And serving on this foundation board and being around for the entire length of time the foundation has existed, I've been able to witness firsthand the impact that the dollars the foundation receives through this bill can make on students. Our students who are speaking to you today just did a wonderful job of explaining some of their personal experiences, and certainly as a member of the committee, I can speak to where those dollars are going. As was mentioned, part of the legislation in place is that the dollars generated to the foundation, part of it is designated to go to help reduce activity fees. And that's through our form, what we call our Form A grants. So all schools have an opportunity to submit those on an annual basis. And just this past fall in November, when the foundation board met to review all the applications, we granted 306 schools Form A applications and divided $755,000 between those schools with the direct impact to help reduce activity fees in those buildings. The second portion that's in legislation is Form B, and Form B grants can be submitted by any school, any entity. We see a lot of conferences or regions who also submit requests for funding for things such as health and safety, So we see lots of grant requests for things like AEDs to be placed at athletic facilities and all around their schools. We see things, other health and safety items like first aid kits and training and things like that for their coaches. And then another piece of it is student leadership initiatives. And you heard these students talk about being part of the SALT team. That's one function of it, but we also see a lot of requests from schools to bring in trainers to work with their captains or things like that, or to send students to a regional training of some sort. Maybe a conference is putting together, like the Gopher Conference or something, is bringing together student leaders from all schools. So those are some of the things that we see come in requests. And again, this year we were able to grant 151 different school requests in some form, with just over $400,000 worth of grant money towards Form B. So being a part of this has been a pleasure to continue to serve, and hopefully you're able to get some picture from our students here and what I've shared of the impacts that this has to provide schools opportunities that otherwise maybe wouldn't exist.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Senator Cwodzinski, any other comments before we move to discussion?
No.
All right, members, questions? Senator Duckworth.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, I feel like I get to claim some extra credit here because Will is from Farmington Schools, so this is like my third student here today. We're just not going to talk hockey because we're going to keep everybody from fighting. So thanks for being up here, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Any closing comments, Senator Cwodzinski?
It sounds like it's a really wonderful program, and it's worked great for over 20 years, and just proud to bring this bill forward, and prouder to be sitting next to these two student testifiers. And thank you, members. Just one last comment, but 98% of the revenue the high school league takes in goes back directly to school districts, and I don't know of a foundation that has a better record than 98% of the money they take in going back directly to schools. So I just, on behalf of a taxpayer in Minnesota, I want to thank the high school league for that statistic.
Thank you. And with that, Senator Cwodzinski renews his motion that Senate File 2831 as amended be recommended to pass and be referred to the Committee on Taxes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and your bill is on its way. I'll pass the gavel back to Chair Cwodzinski.
Thank you, Senator Westlin. Okay. Wait, oh, got it. Okay, thank you, Senator Westlin. And now, Senator Westlin, Senate File, no, wait, sorry. Liz Bolden, thank you, Senator Bolden. Wow, what's going on in my brain? Senator Bolden, thank you for taking over. Senator Westlin, Senate File 3548. Welcome to the committee. Today, the intention is to send Senate File 3548 to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. Senator Mann, would you like to make a motion for Senate File 3548 to be recommended to pass and refer to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety?
Thanks for not giving me a chance. I appreciate it. Rock, paper, scissors. Okay, fine.
Wow. Fighting in committee. Thank you, Senator Westlin, to your bill, and apologies again to Senator Bolden and Senator Westlin for my little brain fart this afternoon. Thank you. I can blame it on daylight savings time, right?
Well, Mr. Chair, now you prompt me to say it's okay, we all look alike, right? So let's be serious, though, for a second. This is a serious bill. and members may recall that we passed legislation in 2024 that required the Department of Education to develop a model cardiac response plan for schools. And last year, this committee and the legislature followed up on that plan by enacting legislation that requires all schools to develop and implement their plans by the start of the 2026 school year. This year, I am pleased to report to you that implementation of this policy is underway. The Department of Education, in partnership with Children's Minnesota Project Adam, will provide one-day grantee trainings across all regions of the state this spring. Project Adam will train grantees using a train-the-trainer model with simulation for hands-only CPR and AED use, allowing grantees to take the skills learned back to their buildings and train additional staff on review of the CERP, the Cardiac Emergency Response Plan, signs and symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest, and how to alert and how to initiate compression-only CPR and AED use. So today, our next logical progression in this life-saving policy is Senate File 3548. More than 230,000 students participated in athletic activities in our state last year, according to the Minnesota State High School League. In fact, despite our population, we rank in the top 10 of athletic participation in the country. Sadly, despite being in the top 10 for athletic participation, Minnesota is one of the few states that do not require mandatory CPR or AED training, either by statute or a bylaw of the state's high school governing body for coaches and assistant coaches. Senate File 3548 will ensure that our coaches and assistant coaches have the proper training to respond to and provide aid to students who might suffer sudden cardiac arrest. My legislation will require training for all coaches to get and maintain that training every 2 years thereafter. If you want to look at the bill, it is fairly straightforward. Lines 1.8 through 1.14 outline that in the 2027-2028 school year and thereafter, all high school and middle school athletic coaches and assistant coaches employed by a school district or charter school must obtain and maintain current training in CPR and the use of AEDs. And then after that initial training, coaches and assistant coaches must receive training every 2 years. The training must be consistent with national evidence-based emergency cardiovascular care guidelines. And then lines 1.15 to 1.18 indicate that if an individual described in the prior section performs CPR or uses an AED in the course of their employment, they are not liable in a civil action for damages resulting from an act or omission occurring in that performance, except if it involves gross negligence. So we do provide protections. What we do know is that with all sudden cardiac arrests, time is of the essence. I know that we have on this committee a doctor who is also a senator who could probably speak to this better than I can. But it is important that our coaches and assistant coaches be provided this training, that they be required to have the training as they are working regularly with our student athletes. And I would finally note as well that the training can be obtained for free from any number of organizations. So this should not bring a cost to any entity. And with that, Mr. Chair, I believe we have actually a number of testifiers for this bill today.
Thank you, Senator. First up, Danielle Tyrevold and Gia Tyrevold. And Danielle, I read your letter that you provided the committee, and if your speaking skills are going to be half as powerful as your writing skills, this is going to be pretty emotional testimony. So thanks for being here today.
Sorry.
Sorry if I don't make eye contact. Okay. My name is Danielle Tierbold. Chair Cwodzinski and members of the Senate Education Policy Committee, I'm here today to share my daughter's story and to urge you to support Senate File 3548, legislation requiring all Minnesota high school coaches to be trained in CPR and AED use. On August 30th, 2025, Gia was playing in a national 15U softball tournament in Lakeville, Minnesota. The girls were off to a great start, having won their first game 29-0. They were leading in their second game 11-0 when Gia dove into third base with a triple. Gia stood up after the play, put her hands on her hips, and collapsed and lost consciousness. She fell back, hitting her head very hard, sending her helmet flying. I knew something wasn't right. I immediately ran out onto the field. When I got there, Gia was grunting and could not make eye contact. Sorry. Several coaches from both teams thought that she was having a seizure and were asking questions as I was trying to assess her. Finally, her coach, Rick Thomas, told everybody, "Please be quiet and let mom do her job." I am a registered nurse, and it hit me finally that this was sudden cardiac arrest. I watched her face and lips go white. My child was pulseless. I immediately began performing CPR. 911 was called by bystanders. Even though there was a Verizon outage and nobody can get through, finally somebody put their phone on SOS mode and was able to get through. There was no AED, no athletic trainer. No one there was trained to assist me. Hearing there was no AED, I thought Gia was going to die. I was trained. I knew my compressions were good and I had experience. I kept thinking that Gia would have brain damage because it had already been 10 minutes by now, compressions, and I was losing hope. Finally, I heard sirens. Thankfully, we heard there was a fire truck that was nearby and they were bringing us an AED. The first responders were not confident. They got out the AED and put the pad on her stomach first, which is the wrong spot. I had to remove that pad and put it on her chest properly. All it took was one shock, and Gia was in a normal rhythm, although she remained unconscious. My knees and the tops of my feet were bleeding from being on the dirt and performing CPR for so long. I was in complete shock. I was so angry about the AED, and I was trying so hard to keep it together because everybody else was losing it. Everyone was surrounding us and crying and praying. She was transported to Ridges Hospital in Burnsville and then transferred to the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital, where she was then admitted to the PICU. We were told she was incredibly lucky to be alive. During that time in the hospital, she had to have an SICD implanted, which is a cardioverter defibrillator, to shock her heart if this ever happens again. She had an amazing recovery and returned to the field only 7 weeks later. Gia does not have an underlying heart condition. No genetic mutations have been found. She has the healthiest heart of an athlete, and she had 0 symptoms on that day. But here's the truth. Gia is alive today because CPR was started immediately and because a fire truck happened to be down the street on lunch break. Minutes matter. Sudden cardiac arrest in young athletes is rare, but it is very real. Many of these children, like Gia, have no symptoms and no warning. The first sign of sudden cardiac arrest is loss of consciousness and collapse. Brain cells die within 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. If nobody on that field had known what to do, or if no AED had been close by, my daughter would not be here. We ask our coaches to lead, to protect, and to mentor our children. They are present at practices, games, and conditioning sessions, often when medical personnel are not. They spend countless hours a week with our children. Some, like mine, spend more time with her coach than her own parents. Ensuring coaches are trained in CPR and AED use is not an extra burden. It's a critical safety standard. We shouldn't have to stand by and watch a mother do everything in her power with her own 2 hands to save her child, while everybody else stands and prays because they don't know what else to do. This legislation is about preparedness, and it is about giving adults the tools and the confidence to act in the worst moments. Everybody has a role. It's about making sure that when a child collapses on a Minnesota field or court, somebody nearby knows exactly what to do. My daughter was lucky, and her outcome was a pure miracle that doctors still can't explain. Every family should have that same chance. I urge you to support this bill so that every coach in Minnesota is equipped with the training necessary to save a life. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Gia, do you want to add anything?
I don't remember anything.
Okay. Thank you. Rick Thomas and Norm Okerstrom, please.
My name is Rick Thomas, Chair Cwodzinski, and the members of the Senate Education Policy Committee. As I mentioned, my name is Rick Thomas. I coach club softball for the Midwest Speed, 15U National Thomas team. I also coach high school softball at Centennial. I'm here today to express my support for Senate File 3548. Legislation that will require Minnesota coaches like myself to be trained in CPR and AED use. I would like to tell my side of the story and why I believe coaches need to be trained in CPR and AED. This is about a young lady that was new to coaching named Gianna Tiervold and her sudden cardiac arrest situation that changed her life forever. As her mom mentioned, August 30th, 2025 was just another nice sunny day here in Minnesota. It was a day we played in the biggest club softball tournament here in Minnesota, which is called the S&C Fall Showcase. High school age females have been doing this for years. So this was supposed to be a routine of go compete, win some games, but ultimately have the girls catch the eye of some college coaches recruiting. Well, that day did not go as planned. It ended up being one of the scariest moments of my life. This was the first tournament together as a team. And as her mom mentioned, we came out on fire. In the first game, we had a big win over the Minnesota Renegades team. Things were going as we had hoped in Game 2 versus another team from Minnesota called the Minnesota Misfits, 16U. We entered the top of the 6th inning leading 7-0. This inning became the longest inning ever and forever is stuck in my mind. Sorry. We racked up another 3 runs when Gianna came to the plate with a runner on second. Gianna hit a ball to right center field, came sliding into third base for a triple. As time was called, she stood up to dust herself off. That's when my world was flipped on its head. Gianna went down hard. Her helmet came off her head as she hit the ground. I thought for sure she was having a seizure, and I just wasn't warned about her condition. I was wrong. I went to my knee to try and support her, to give her some attention, and I was hoping she would snap out of it. Before I knew it, Danielle Tiervold was on the field next to me. Danielle took over, and I could hear the seriousness in her voice. She knew this wasn't a seizure and started heavy chest compressions. As I looked over at the rest of my players, they were all together on a knee praying. Voices from all around were giving Danielle direction, but she knew what she had to do. So I simply yelled, "Let Mom do her thing." To this day, I thank God Danielle was there to save Gio. Because if chest compressions weren't given when they were, I believe this letter would not be about Gianna being saved, but rather grieving her loss. This changed a lot for me as a coach. I realized that myself, along with many other coaches in Minnesota, are not given the proper training to handle a sudden cardiac arrest situation. We have no CPR or AED training. We are lost when we see our players hit the ground, like described above. It was the most helpless feeling in this world that I've experienced. To see someone you care so much about dying in front of you, and you don't have the training to know how to help them. I plead to you that we as coaches need CPR and AED training. Please take a serious look at this situation and the lack of training and realize the importance of having coaches here in Minnesota trained with CPR. I respectfully ask for your support of this legislation that will save lives. Thank you.
Wow. Good afternoon, Senator Cwodzinski and members of the Senate Education Policy Committee. My name is Norm Okerstrom. My wife Kim and I reside in Plymouth. Kim and I are active members of the national organization Parent Heart Watch and recently started a new group in Minnesota called the Minnesota SCA, or Sudden Cardiac Arrest Advocates. The Minnesota SCA Advocates are a growing group of FCA survivors or parents of young survivors or parents of children tragically lost to sudden cardiac arrest. The American Heart Association is also involved, representatives from Children's and Project Adam, CPR trainers and AED sales and training companies, as well as Heart Safe community representatives from Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity to testify both personally as well as on their behalf in support of Senate File 3548, requiring all middle and high school assistant and head coaches to be trained in CPR, as well as how to utilize an automated external defibrillator. This life-saving training is meant to empower coaches to recognize the signs of sudden cardiac arrest and will teach them what immediate actions must be taken at the site of collapse in order to increase the chance of survival. Sudden cardiac arrest happens without warning, and what happens prior to EMS arrival is often the difference between life and death. Senator Cwodzinski and members of the committee, this bill will definitely save lives. It is widely known in the medical community that 1 in 300 youth have an undiagnosed heart condition that puts them at risk for sudden cardiac arrest. Sudden cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death of student athletes, and it has been reported that every 2 to 3 days in the United States, a student athlete collapses from SCA. It's not as rare as some people think. It's also widely known that where there is a cardiac emergency response plan or emergency action plan in place and practiced, in addition to readily available AEDs and trained individuals who are willing to take immediate actions, the survival rate of victims of sudden cardiac death increases exponentially. I would like to take this opportunity to share stories of 2 young 16-year-old male students. Both of these students were excellent athletes. They were vibrant, enthusiastic, fun-loving kids who were in great shape, and neither one had any previously diagnosed heart condition or family history of sudden cardiac death. Each of these young men had high hopes of continuing their athletic and academic interests after graduating from high school. Matthew Mangine Jr. suffered sudden cardiac arrest while at soccer practice at his high school in Kentucky. The date was June 16th of 2020. Matthew collapsed 10 feet from his coach on the field that day. His coach did not recognize what was happening to Matthew and delayed calling for 911 or direct anyone to retrieve an AED, which was within their school. His coach did not recognize what was happening to Matthew or calling 911 or directing anyone to retrieve the AED within the school, but he did ask a volunteer coach to get the athletic trainer, who happened to be on the opposite side of the school at the girls' practice, the girls' soccer practice. No CPR was initiated until a parent of another student noticed the commotion and soon realized Matthew had no pulse. CPR had not been started for 5 minutes. When EMS arrived, they tried desperately to get Matthew's heart restarted. It was too late. Matthew Mangine Jr. died that day on the field he so loved being on. My wife Kim and I met Matthew's parents at a recent Parent Heart Watch conference and learned how not taking an emergency action plan seriously and not having coaches trained in CPR and AED use often have deadly consequences. The other young man I'd like to talk about collapsed from sudden cardiac arrest on the football field at Wayzata High School, and it was on the same day, June 16th. But this was 11 years prior to Matthew's death. This student athlete was our son, Teddy. Teddy collapsed on June 16th, 2009, while participating in the second day of summer football conditioning. He was running light sprints when his heart suddenly went into the deadly arrhythmia of ventricular fibrillation, when the heart's electrical system abruptly goes into a chaotic rhythm, often described as the heart's lower ventricles shaking or quivering. That's what fibrillation means. The heart no longer is pumping vital oxygenated blood to the brain, heart, or lungs, and without immediate recognition, chest compressions, and the use of an AED, the person almost always dies. Nationally, the survival rate of sudden cardiac arrest is at a dismal 7 to 10%. For every minute that passes from sudden cardiac arrest, collapse, to defibrillation, the chance of survival decreases 10% per minute. Thankfully, Teddy's coach, Matt Lombardi, had been trained. After approaching Teddy, who was lying face down on the turf field, Matt rolled him on his back to make an assessment. He quickly recognized that Teddy was not just having a seizure, but knew it was cardiac arrest when he quickly stopped breathing and his face turned blue. Coach Lombardi immediately initiated what's known as the cardiac chain of survival by dispatching another assistant coach to call 911 and retrieve the AED from the school and run it back as soon as possible. He then started hands-only CPR or chest compressions without emergency breaths. The AED was rushed to the field by one of Teddy's teammates, turned on, and the pads were placed on Teddy's bare chest. The AED indicated that a shock was advised. Because of the training assistant coaches and staff had received at various points in their careers, both outside of and at school, while at Wayzata, they knew that pushing the shock button was needed. After the first shock, they immediately resumed compressions, and within seconds, Teddy took a huge breath. His skin color went to normal, and he blinked his eyes and asked, "What happened?" Teddy had regained a pulse after 6 minutes of being pulseless and not breathing. Teddy's life was saved by coaches who used their training and jumped into action. Teddy, who is now 32 years old, graduated from Wayzata and went on to earn a degree in education and is currently teaching middle school students in Denver, Colorado, while also now pursuing a master's in counseling. We are thankful that Coach Lombardi and Coach Bird, as well as staff members Ryan Johnson and Dee Schrader, as well as one of Teddy's teammates, AJ Troop, who was the fastest kid in all of Wayzata High School, I later learned, took decisive action that day. Two stories, two very different outcomes. My wife and I will be forever grateful to all the coaches, staff, and people who were involved in Teddy's save that day. We can't bring Matthew Mangine Jr. and the thousands of other kids who have died from cardiac arrest, but we can do everything possible in our power to make sure our coaches and schools are prepared. The Anyone Can Save a Life program, which was rolled out the year before Teddy collapsed, is a good program. It was designed for high schools, but it doesn't address middle school teachers. If the program is in place and there's accountability to have this program in place, that would be great, but there's not at this point. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of these families and the future families that sudden cardiac arrest will inevitably impact. The big question we all have to ask ourselves is, are we prepared? Have we done everything possible? Thank you. I'd like to thank you for your service on this board, as well as supporting and passing this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one remote testifier, Rick Ringeisen.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Senate Committee. It's my pleasure to be here today to testify before you. I am the Minnesota State High School Coaches Association Executive Director. I am a career teacher and coach, and I've worked in the Lakeville School District for all of those years. And I've been coaching for 46 years, and later this afternoon I will start my 130th high school season. I want you to know that coaches believe and want to be trained. And as members of school districts, in many instances, our coaches are trained. And I do want to point out that the Anyone Can Save a Life program that was developed by the Minnesota State High School League and the Medtronic Corporation Foundation has made a significant difference. In fact, it's saved 5 lives since its inception in 2008. Now, not every coach is being trained, and the Anyone Can Save a Life website is out there for everybody, and anybody can go to it. But there seems to be a gap in middle school coaches. There are challenges with this bill, and one is the number of coaches. Our association represents 10,000 coaches that are annual members. They are mostly head coaches. What that means is that when we have assistant coaches, they're people who typically are head coaches in one sport and join in another sport. There are significantly more assistant coaches than head coaches. When you put the numbers together, nobody has the actual facts. Even AI was having difficult with the question, but we could be anywhere between 25 and 50,000 coaches. The logistics of training those coaches before each season, obviously you can set it up biannually and alternate, even and odd numbered districts from one year to the next, and that would cut it in half. But the initial front load on this training would be overwhelming. The fact that it's available free is wonderful, but I will tell you that as a swim coach and a coach in my district, we do receive the training. And we, as members of the Coaches Association and part of the league, have a coaches, what we call a dashboard, where we receive training annually. And Anyone Can Save a Life is part of that. We are directed to that website for the training, and there you'll find the stories. I highly encourage all of you to go to that website and check it out and see the stories of the lives that have been changed through it. I'm a unique person for this particular testifying today because my father and my grandfather both passed from heart attacks. My wife is a hospital nurse. She just retired this past year, and she served as the charge nurse in the Fairview Intensive Coronary Care Unit, where she receives training biannually in ALS, which is assisted life support training, but it also includes CPR and AED. The key factor in all of this is the AED and the funding of them. They were invented in the 90s, but they were not commercially available across districts until the year 2000 with the passing of legislation that made them readily available. It's wonderful that the State High School League Foundation funds those and makes sure they get out there, but we need more of them. And how many do we need? We need one within 3 minutes of every activity at all times. We do have trainers at schools that are trained, that are available after school and at most athletic contests. However, they're not always at the B squad and the JV contest, particularly when we have remote access and we're out in the fields and multiple events going on at the same time. So to recap, coaches support training, but we need to address the logistics of getting the training done, and that's going to require people to go to the schools to do the training. It's nice that the cost is going to be covered, but will it always be covered? Will this become an unfunded mandate? That could become problematic for everybody involved. I also wonder why college coaches are not included in this, because when I did a deep dive on the stats, we're talking about 2.2% of lives lost for teenagers being cardiac in nature. The fact is that cancer's at 5%, self-harm suicides at 20%, assault and homicides at 20%, and unintentional injuries are at 38%. But that number jumps up between 7 and 15% for college-age people versus high school-age people. I think that's a gap in this bill, and it needs to be addressed. The fact that school districts have been ordered to deliver this training, they should be including their coaches in this. Another factor in coaching is that we have a really high turnover in coaches right now. The days of when coaches were teachers and coached multiple sports are gone. Today, in our sports, over 50% of our coaches are from the private sector and come from other businesses and make compromises to be able to be coaches, to do these things. And that's something that, you know, we need to have flexible training periods in order for people to be able to get the training. And it can't be just a one and done for a district. It's going to have to, the logistics are going to have to be addressed when we look at this. And I know there's training out there from the Red Cross and the Heart Association and things like that, but it's going to be all hands on deck, particularly that first kickoff here, without somebody sitting down and going through the logistics. It can't be just let's vote on it and get it passed and then let everybody scurry to try to figure out how it's going to happen. There's going to have to be a group of people working on that to make it happen. So thank you for your time today. It was a pleasure to present to you and testify on behalf of the coaches in the state of Minnesota.
Thank you, testifier. Senator Abler.
Well, thanks. I think this is a pretty compelling bill, and thanks for being here, Gia, and your mom, and all the testifiers, and the last fellow, the coach, I think makes some good points. But I think it's really something, and Senator Newton made a big thing out of trying to get more AEDs around in his time, just to mention him in a kind way if he's watching. Hey, Jerry. And so just to pile on, it seems like, I mean, this bill makes all the sense in the world, and it's probably not big enough. You know, the whole higher ed thing, different committee, different bill, but it just occurred to me, well, even before the testimony came, that these are in, I don't know how many every school has, but it seems like they should commonly drag them out to the field and keep them handy, and I don't know why we don't do that. And so it's just complimentary to your bill. And especially the B squads, you know, hey, it shouldn't suck to be a B squad guy. You should have a greater chance of dying than an A squad kid. So as a C squatter, Mr. Chair, I would firmly go for that. But anyway, I wish you well in the bill, and I, you know, maybe Mr. Aronson has money out of his state high school league fund that he wants to put into this instead of helping some other less important thing. But I think most parents would pay $1 or $2 more on their fee to make sure there's one around there for their kids. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, briefly. So again, as folks may recall, we did pass the Cardiac Emergency Response Plan bill last year, which does require school districts to develop that plan. It does require for the placement of automatic external defibrillators on school grounds, following guidelines. I'm going to say that I have carried bills related to this topic multiple years now, and every single year, strange thing happens. Minnesota State High School League opposes my bills, but hasn't come to talk to me once about them in any of the cases. Not once. I'm going to say I'm baffled by that. And I would agree that we probably need to make sure that higher education is also addressing this. Just a quick Google search shows that while the NCAA does not require it, that most institutions, either university or individual institutions, do require this training. But if the Minnesota State High School League would like to help me draft a bill to require this for higher education institutions in this state, I would be more than happy to carry that bill. I am baffled by the ongoing opposition every time I bring these bills forward. This bill will save lives. It is strange to me that coaches and assistant coaches who are dealing with our students, who are working with them every single day, would not already have this training. The training is offered for free by any number of organizations, the American Heart Association, the Red Cross, community organizations, Healthy Heart. I still need to do my CPR training. Many organizations provide this, and we have now, again, with the cardiac emergency response plan bill that was passed last year into law, requires the placement of AEDs. So this is a good bill. This should be the easiest yes vote that anyone should take this year. Doesn't have a fiscal note attached to it. It provides for no civil liability if someone does perform this. I hope that this is an easy vote for all of you, and I encourage a yes vote.
Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And I know this is a very serious subject matter, but I do feel compelled to continue asking for extra credit and bonus points. You may have missed it, but Coach Extraordinaire Ringheisen was a legendary coach of the Lakeville swimming team, so it's good to have him out here today. And a short story, so his son and his son's wife and myself and my wife all graduated from Lakeville High School before there was a North or a South, so it's a small world. All that to say, Senator Westlin, I appreciate your bill, appreciate everybody being here to testify. I'm obviously very biased. I'm a volunteer firefighter, just finished my EMT course. The #1 life-saving intervention for cardiac arrest is high-quality CPR, even better if you have an AED handy. So important conversation to have. Appreciate everybody being here to have this conversation. Thank you.
Members of the committee, if I may interject.
In just a moment, please. Senator Bolden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I want to say thank you, Senator Westlin, for carrying this bill. I'm proud to be a co-author on it, and you have done work over a number of sessions on this issue, and want to thank you for that. And want to thank all of the testifiers for being here, for sharing your story, and for the advocacy that you are putting into this. This bill, no doubt in my mind, will save lives. The evidence is very clear of, as has been said, the importance of high-quality CPR quickly. Time is tissue, we know that. And so having folks who are present, having the training they need to be able to act quickly will absolutely save lives. So thank you.
Mr. Ringheisen.
Yes, I'd also like to point out that our athletes spend 9 months of the year with their clubs and then spend 3 months of the year with us. And this is not addressing those coaches and those programs. I know that may be out of your guys, but it does kind of show a gap. And the other part of it is that training is taking place. Coaches are getting training. It's not as comprehensive, and there are people out there that have missed this. Will this bill seal all of those? I hope so, in its place. But I do want you to know that in our district, coaches are trained, and we do get annual reviews, you know, with videos on AED use when we have our coaches meetings. Now, there are some gaps that need to be filled, and this could help, but I don't want you to believe that coaches are not trained. That's simply not the case. There are some that are not as well trained or not as frequently trained, but training has taken place. I did a survey of my executive board. It's 12 members from large, small schools across the entire state. And every one of them told me and responded that they have been trained, all right? Well, I know that's a small sample, but I was only able to gather that sample based on when I was asked to testify. So I just want you to have that information before you move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I respond?
Senator.
It's good that some coaches are required. This requires all coaches and assistant coaches, and I will refer back to the Cardiac Emergency Response Plan. So other organizations, including clubs that are taking place in the school, you know, there is a plan in place to ensure that there are those on staff and on the premises who have had this training, that there is a plan. The gap is that we have coaches and assistant coaches who are sometimes trained and sometimes not. And we've heard compelling testimony today that, thank God, Gia's mom was there to provide CPR. Requiring every coach to take CPR and then update it every couple of years is probably not a bad idea. In fact, it's probably not a bad idea for all of us to be trained on it. But this requires it to happen. This will save lives.
Members, anyone? Thank you, Senator. Apologies one last time for my ineptitude for Bolden and Westlin, and so I apologize one last time. I just want to remind the members of the audience that we've talked a lot about student athletes, but there's always parents in the stands. There could be a coach, an assistant coach on another team. So there's a lot of people that could benefit by this. And as Senator Westlin knows, there's a passage in the Talmud that says, "He who saves one life saves the world entire." And if that's what your organization comes out of this, is that you save one life, a mission accomplished for all of you. And I see on the list that you have 2 authors. If there's room at the end of the day for a 3rd, 4th, or a 5th, add me to that list, please. I'd appreciate it. Any final words, Senator?
I just want to thank the committee for once again hearing a bill related to a topic that's clearly very challenging. We've had families come in and testify, and I want to thank you for your attention, and I ask again for your vote to move this on to judiciary.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, Senator Mann and Abler renew their motion that Senate File 3548 be recommended to pass and refer to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, this bill has been moved to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. Next, we'll hear Senate File 3339. Senator Duckworth, welcome to the committee. Today, our intention is to lay Senate File 3339 over for possible consideration in the future omnibus bill. Senator Duckworth, please move Senate File 339 before the committee. And I understand you have the A1 amendment, Senator?
I do. Yes, I'd like to move that, Mr. Chair. Please, thank you.
So moved.
Thank you. Do you need to vote on it, or am I good? Aye.
I've been told we need to vote on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I greatly appreciate the time to present this bill before you today. I, of course, have a testifier who can elaborate and share some more information about it, but this is to start a conversation regarding the Minnesota State High School League and the sport of cricket. Giving it some consideration. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to my friend and resident of Lakeville to talk a little bit more about this bill. Thank you.
So it is literally Lakeville Day at the Cat.
Apparently that was not a planned event.
Good afternoon, senators and members of the community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Surya. I am from Lakeville, and I'm here to speak in support of Minnesota Senate File 3339. Which highlights the growing role of cricket in Minnesota communities and schools. Cricket is the second most popular sport in the world, played and followed by billions across countries such as India, Australia, and England. The sport continues to grow rapidly in the United States and will return to the global stage at the 2028 Summer Olympic in Los Angeles. This renewed Olympic presence is bringing new attention and opportunities for cricket development across the country. Minnesota already has a vibrant and growing cricket community with more than 3,000 active players and nearly 10,000 families connected to the sport. Across many cities in our state like Lakeville, Eden Prairie, Edina, Plymouth, and Wayzata school district leagues and community tournaments bring players together regularly. For many families, cricket is more than just a sport. It is a way to build friendships, stay active, and strengthen community connections. Interest in cricket is growing among young people as well as adults who want opportunities to participate and develop their skills. As the sport expands in the United States, Minnesota has the opportunity to be part of the growth and provide more organized pathways for the participation. Community organizations are already helping build this momentum. Groups such as the Minnesota Tennis Ball Cricket Association organize tournaments and encourage participation across the state, helping players of different ages and backgrounds stay engaged in the sport. Sports like cricket offer many benefits beyond competition. They help young people develop focus, teamwork, discipline, leadership, and resilience, while also promoting physical activity and health lifestyles. At the same time, sports bring communities together and create shared experience among people from diverse backgrounds. By supporting Minnesota Senate File 3339, Minnesota can help create new opportunities for youth and families. This sport has been already implemented in other states like California, New York, and Pennsylvania, while supporting the continued growth of a sport that already brings thousands of our communities together. Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate the opportunity to share this perspective and would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and we do have another testifier, Mr. Aronson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Roger Aronson. I represent the Minnesota State High School League, and we wanted to offer just a little bit of information to the committee about how we handle emerging sports. Some of you may be aware of this, that a couple years ago we had a pretty big move statewide to add boys volleyball, and that brought to the attention of the league that we actually needed a process to set up, because we get an ongoing request for things like you're seeing here today about adding cricket, whether we want to add flag football, and the list gets kind of down there a little bit. We get some questions about football, about fishing, about rodeo. Stuff really kind of moves around a little bit. So we've set up a process now called Emerging Sports. We modeled this after other states as well. And what has to happen on that is that we need 20 schools to come forward and sign a petition that say, hey, we want to do this particular sport. Then they get a kind of a probationary status for a couple of years on this, and then as they move towards getting the requisite number for a state tournament, we move them towards that. There was some controversy about boys volleyball where we actually had a no vote with our representative assembly, where it felt like one vote short of getting approved, and what might happen on that. That's what led to this process. So cricket's obviously has a neat idea and a worldwide appeal and that sort of stuff. We would ask not to do this particular model just in terms of the way that this is structured, and let it go through the regular process that we have of schools coming forward and saying we want to do this and then signing the form. We gave you a copy of the form as well so that you can see that, and it seems to have worked very well for us. So, Mr. Chair, I'd answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, both testifiers. Members? Senator Kunish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So cricket is a really interesting idea here in Minnesota. In the bill on lines 1.10, it says that the league governing board must amend the laws to select an appropriate season for cricket and make other necessary determinations regarding participation. And then it says, to extent practicable, the league must establish a spring season for cricket. And so I'm just kind of wondering if that sort of contradicts what you want them to do. It sounds to me like you really want it to be a spring sport, but then you're also allowing for the league to make their own choice. And so I'm wondering if that language in there is really what you want it to be.
Do you have any insight you want to share on that? Otherwise, I can handle that question.
Yeah, like the spring season for cricket, we can play in the outdoor, like if it is a spring season or the summer season, anybody can join and play in that cricket. So maybe like we can update those wordings, but that is the plan.
Thank you. And then just one more question. How excited are people for a cricket league in Minnesota? And this is high school, so I'm wondering, are there a lot of schools that are looking to do this? Are there just like informal cricket teams out there? And where are we seeing these sort of sports happening here in Minnesota?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like there are 3,000 players in the Minnesota. So every year we have a tournaments in Minnesota Association, tennis ball, cricket, and MICA. We are conducting a tournament in the spring season and the summer seasons, like different cities, Lakeville, Edina, Eden Prairie. We have the own grounds. And not only the high school, like starting from the elementary school and the middle school kids also very interested, and they're very encouraging and engaging to play in the cricket. Even we have a US cricket team, and we did the last year, the US World Cup. And from Minnesota, probably like I can say, around 20 to 25 kids are traveling to the different states and play the cricket. So every year the count is increasing and looking for the more facilities and ground in the Minnesota. So this bill will be really help. Maybe like next year it will be increased from 3,000 players to 6,000 players, maybe within 2 or 3 years. That really helps for the USA team to play in the World Cup and the next Olympic sessions, because the Olympic session is scheduled for 2028 in the Los Angeles. So.
Thank you.
Any other members? Thank you, Senator Duckworth. And thanks for wanting to get kids to help them, guide them to belong to something bigger than themselves. And when we're dealing with a obesity epidemic in America, maybe 1 or 2 kids will take on this sport when none of the other sports they were attracted to. So I thank you. My only hesitation in your bill is in the year we'll be celebrating our independence from England. For us to be adopting their sport in America is causing me a little angst. But with that said, any final comments, Senator?
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, I oversaw that significant flaw, so I will adjust some dates maybe, but I will say to Senator Kunish's question, I'm not sure cricket has reached, U.S. Olympic hockey level of excitement in Minnesota, but it is growing. Surya has had me out to many cricket tournaments in the city of Lakeville, and I was blown away by the number of kids and adults who are there performing, competing, and having a blast. It's growing pretty rapidly, so I appreciate the opportunity to have that conversation, bring some awareness to it, and I thank the Minnesota State High School League for coming here to talk about that process, and I think they can look forward to that being pursued, and I always appreciate your time and the time of the committee to give it some consideration, so thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, Senate File 3339 as amended is laid over for possible inclusion in the Education Omnibus Bill. Next, we'll hear Senate File 3963. Senator Hauschild, welcome to the committee. Today, the intention is to lay Senate File 3963 over for consideration of future omnibus bill. Senator Hauschild, would you like to move Senate File 3963 before the committee?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So moved. Thank you, Senator Hauschild, and to your bill.
Thank you, Chair Cwodzinski and members. Today I have for you for consideration Senate File 3963, a bill to provide future school board members and the communities they represent the governance flexibility to provide for 5-member school boards based on their district's needs and population. Current law requires school boards to have 6 members unless voters choose to expand the board to 7. This structure does not reflect the realities facing Minnesota's smallest districts, particularly in rural areas where they may not have enough candidates to fill all 6 seats. This bill allows districts with 1,000 or fewer students to ask their voters whether their board should consist of 5 members instead of 6, which provides flexibility when local conditions make that 6-member structure difficult to maintain. Thank you, Chair Cwodzinski and committee for the consideration. And with me today, I have 3 testifiers who can speak on the needs of the bill. And first, I believe, is one of my superintendents, Mr. Chris Lindholm.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. As stated, my name is Chris Lindholm, and I have the pleasure of serving as superintendent of Cook County Schools in the far northeast corner of Minnesota surrounded by Lake Superior, the Boundary Waters, Canada, and Lake County. I am here in support of Senate File 3963 on behalf of the Minnesota School Boards Association and many of my colleagues. My perspective on this bill is informed by my time serving as assistant superintendent in Burnsville with just over 10,000 students and a seven-member school board. Then as superintendent in Pequot Lakes with just about 1,800 students and a 7-member board. And then now as superintendent in Cook County Schools with about 450 students and a 5-member school board. Minneapolis Schools with a 9-member board and Cook County Schools with a 5-member board are the only two districts, public school districts in Minnesota that do not have a board of 6 or 7 per statute. I meet regularly with colleagues that serve rural districts with less than 1,000 students, and it is not uncommon for these small districts to struggle to fill board member seats with committed and dedicated individuals. To use Cook County as an example, the entire county has about 5,600 people. Nearly half of the population is either retired or very close to it. Over the past couple of decades, most school board seats have been filled with uncontested elections and a few times with filling them through an appointment or a write-in process due to no one filing during the regular election. Fortunately, we currently have an outstanding board of 5 people, 4 of which are current parents, but all of them wear multiple community hats because there's only so many people to fill the leadership positions in the county, in the hospital, in the clinic, the local township boards, fire departments, the chamber, the list goes on and on. About 30 to 40% of the 5,600 people in Cook County are between the ages of 25 and 64, and so we rely on those people very heavily to keep the local economy going and to fill critical leadership positions. I do believe it would be challenging in Cook County to consistently fill 6 or 7 seats. And I do thoroughly enjoy serving a board that consists of 5 highly educated and engaged people. The board functions at a very high level and has earned the trust of the community as demonstrated by an operating levy renewal and 2 successful bond referendums in the past 4 years. Senate File 3963 would offer other small Minnesota districts the opportunity to transition to a 5-member board if the voters in that community approve the change at the local level. Knowing that there are well over 70 districts smaller than Cook County schools, I see no reason not to give them this opportunity to right-size their school board structure. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chair Cwodzinski, committee members, and Senator Hauschild. My name is Laura Oxnevad, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Minnesota School Boards Association. MSBA urges your support of Senate File 3963, good governance legislation that gives Minnesota's smallest school districts a practical, voter-driven option to right-size their school boards. As Senator Hauschild stated, current law requires school boards to have 6 members unless voters choose to expand the board to 7. While this structure works well in many communities, it does not reflect the realities facing our smallest districts. Where recruiting enough candidates to fill all 6 seats can be difficult. Senate File 3963 addresses this challenge with a simple, locally controlled solution. The bill allows districts with 1,000 or fewer students to ask their voters whether their board should consist of 5 members instead of 6. The decision remains entirely with the community. This flexibility is important for several reasons. Small districts often struggle to recruit a full slate of school board candidates due to the population size and geography. Voters determine whether a different board structure better fits their community, and right-sizing boards helps ensure seats are filled, meetings have strong participation, and local leadership remains effective. The bill also includes clear transition provisions so any voter-approved change can be implemented smoothly and align with future election cycles. School boards represent the closest form of democratic governance in Minnesota, providing small districts with a voter-approved option to adjust board size, recognizes the realities these communities face while preserving transparency, accountability, and local decision-making. Thank you, Senator Hauschild, for carrying this bill. MSBA strongly encourages the committee to support Senate File 3963. Thank you.
And lastly, Ms. Martins.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee.
My name is Jill Martins, and I am from Nicollet, Minnesota, and I am a school board member at Nicollet District 507. In many small districts today, the challenge isn't choosing between candidates for school board. It's simply finding enough people willing and able to run. I'm here today to share a practical perspective from someone currently serving on a school board and seeing these challenges firsthand. Serving on a school board is incredibly meaningful work. Board members help guide the district's direction, support students and staff, and makes decisions that impact the entire community. But it is also a significant commitment. It requires time, thoughtful decisions, and a willingness to step into difficult conversations. In smaller districts, it is becoming harder and harder to find people who are able to make that commitment. People care deeply about their schools, but today, many are balancing demanding jobs, busy family lives, and numerous and other responsibilities. In recent elections, we have been choosing between multiple candidates. We've often been just choosing or struggling to find just one, or even writing in many. Previous to me running, the years before, we had many write-in candidates. The year I ran, we did have 4, but then just this past election, we had one person get on our board with 31 votes. Grateful for that person because she previously did run, and she's doing an excellent job, but that does concern me when we have to fill those seats. Some districts have had to recruit people to run and rely on write-in candidates just like our small town. This bill offers a practical solution. It does not remove representation, and it does not require any district to make it a change. Instead, it simplifies, or it simply gives communities the option through a vote of their own or with their own residents to determine whether a 5-member board may better fit their district needs. For many districts, a 6-7 member board will continue to work very well, but for smaller districts that consistently struggle to find candidates, the flexibility to right-size their board can help to ensure that every seat is filled by committed, engaged members. Strong governance depends on having a board that is fully staffed and able to work effectively together as a team. Ultimately, this bill is about local control and practical governance. It simply gives communities the flexibility to decide what board structure works best so they can maintain strong and effective leadership. Strong schools need strong governance, and this bill helps ensure that small districts have the flexibility to achieve it. Thank you for your time and your consideration, and any questions I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, testifiers. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I was a member of a 6-person board, and after my time on that board, they actually took it to voters to increase it to 7, and that passed. So this conversation, I think, does take place amongst communities and in districts. It's pretty interesting to me. The only question I would have for any of the testifiers is if you currently statutorily are required to have a 6-person board, but for some reason you can't fill a spot or 2, are you experiencing any penalties as a result, or is it just sort of an inconvenience or a nuisance to have 6 spots per law, but not the ability or the candidates to fill all of them?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Senator Duckworth. And districts that have a vacancy then are required to go through a process to appoint and fill. So that's what you see that happens across the state of Minnesota over and over again, is an interview appointment process. In fact, our current board chair in Cook County was appointed and then ran for re-election and is still there.
I have nothing to add.
Nothing else to add? Maybe I should ask him that question to see how it worked out for him, but that's all I've got.
Excellent chair, yeah.
That's all I've got, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Okay, Senator Hauschild, I'm glad to be a co-author on this bill, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you, testifiers. I'm just curious, do you know what the smallest school district in the state of Minnesota is in student population?
Chair Cwodzinski, I'm going to have to phone a friend here.
Yeah.
Might be.
It's pretty small.
Might be North Home or Net Lake.
Net Lake is in the 20s? Yeah, I think it's. They're in the 20s, yeah. Net Lake.
And has 20 students.
It's between 20 and 30.
It's in my district, Mr. Chair, yeah.
And they're required currently to have 6 members on their school board.
Yeah, more board members than students over there.
They struggle big time.
I just had that brain comment in my head. Thank you, testifier. Senator Hauschild, any final comments? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we need to renew the, Senator Hauschild renews his motion that Senate File 3963 be laid over for consideration in a future omnibus bill. Yes, okay. On Wednesday, we're going to be hearing a lot of bills on 3 on school safety. It's going to be a very important hearing on Wednesday. We are concerned a little bit about session going over maybe on Wednesday, just FYI to all the people in the audience. I'm not quite sure why there's concern that we might be going over on Wednesday in session, but FYI to all the members of the committee that may be a reality we'll be facing in the next few weeks. So, and a gentle reminder, if you have not invited your students to come and testify on the day you were assigned, please do. And with that, we're adjourned.